Here we are, everybody. It's the day after, or who knows? Maybe it's just starting with Fed announcement coming out in what time? In an hour, right? I am here live down on the floor of the CBOE in the S&P 500 options pit. Charlie Moon, the man, the myth, the legend, is here with me today. He'll be coming on in just a minute here. It is not quite as busy today as it was yesterday down here. Remember yesterday, guys, I talked about the entire time. Boy, oh boy, I couldn't hear a thing. It was so deafening yesterday. So just to give you a little kind of backdrop as to how busy it was yesterday, on an average day, CBOE does about 40 to 42 million option contracts. Yesterday was just over 70. It was slammed all day. Today, it's been constant, busy, but not deafening like it was yesterday. So where are we right now? Highs of the day. S&P's up 42. The Dow, not so much today. Qs are up. NASDAQ is up. So I think there's a lot of anticipation now, not for what the move is going to be. We know the Fed is going to lower rates by 25 basis points. It's all going to be, what does Powell say? Is he now more moderately, let me say, less dovish, right? Is he less dovish? What is that anticipation? What is that prediction going to be? Not just for December, but going into 2025 as well. All right. Here's what we got going on today. Like I said, we have got the man, the myth, the legend, Charlie Moon with us today. And what's on the docket? Yeah, up in a way. We started talking about Amazon yesterday. Remember, guys, what did I show you yesterday? All of these out of the money call buys yesterday. Charlie's going to talk about an Amazon breakout. Charlie's going to talk about Palantir and a potential Palantir breakout. Mike, we good? Okay. What's going on with the future of crypto? Crypto was down a little bit today, exploded back higher. Those of you that were in our Mara position, you're obviously very, very happy. And then obviously we're going to touch on the FOMC. All right. Well, here's the first chart, but rather than doing this, rather than me showing you Amazon, let's bring him in here. Let's bring him in. There he is. He's live. Mr. Mooner, how are you, buddy? I know, Charlie, you're where I wish I was. I mean, I love being down here in the S&P pit, but you are right in the middle of the snowstorm that I wish I was in right now.
I know, it's crazy.
Charlie's out in the Denver area, guys, and even Denver got pummeled yesterday, which was awesome. But you know what? You're not here to listen to us talk about the weather as much as we like to banter about this. So let's get right into it. And Charlie, I know first thing on your radar, and I'm going to go to allow you to share your screen. So let's do that. There we go. So you see me, everybody, but these are Charlie's screens on here. Charlie, if you can, there we go. Beautiful. Let's do it, man. It is all you. I'm going to shut up. It is all you.
All right. So, talking about Amazon, a lot of news that's been centered around Amazon, most notably the government contract, especially with AI basis. And that's really where Amazon is going to find their growth cycle with Arthropic. Please excuse me for not knowing what the quote unquote Amazon AI venture is going to be, but they have partnered with Palantir, which is why they're both on the list. Both of these charts are exhibiting explosive upside. Amazon yesterday was something that we were watching really closely from a short-term trading standpoint. I was very explicit about them having to breach through this 201, and when they did, it was pretty much up only all the way until the very, very closing bell, and they're following up with it today. Now, gentleman that you have had on, and obviously we both have a lot of history with Howard, has given me this indicator that I have now applied called the linear regression channel. And this shows based on the longer term projection where Amazon is designated to go. So in the near term, we're topping out at 212.25, but it really looks like that Amazon's kind of pinned to try and push for that 220, even as high as 225 price. And this could happen all by the end of next week. The reason why is that once stocks, especially with great upside momentum, get into unobstructed zones, like, for example, just a price range they've never historically been before, this is the type of behavior that could be exhibited. So seeing this push, if we get past 212.25, I think 220 is in the picture, 225 as well. If we're looking for a pullback, a very bullish sign will be a pullback back to those old highs.
Whoop, let me get that chart back up there for you. There you go. Hang on.
Yeah, where they can exhibit this as support, and that would be the price to watch, that 201, 200 price for a rebound back to this 212 and perhaps the early ascension to 220. So I think all of this, especially with how the markets historically behave after the last three elections, the S&P 500 has risen upwards of 13%. Most of that gain is done before the end of January. So there's still a lot of room to go, and still the markets are moving up, and it doesn't matter who's in office. This has just been the historical seasonal behavior around elections for the S&P 500.
And Charlie, it's not interesting. It's not coincidental. It is what it is. Yesterday, when I talked about Amazon and some really big, heavy call buying yesterday, you know what strikes they were at?
Where?
220 and 225. And we talked about that yesterday. Some near term. So there were some that were next week's expiration. There were some that were December, and there were some going all the way out to February.
Yeah. And the time frame makes total sense, because if we already look at how much Amazon's moved in the last 2 days after getting above that 201 price, it's already been an $11 move. So seeing another $11 move, especially with this upside momentum in the market by next week, is absolutely realistic. Now, if we veer off to Palantir actually has, I believe, a bigger float than Amazon. So even though the stock price is a lot cheaper, it's actually somewhat more difficult to move a stock like Palantir the way they have been without, an extreme amount of volume and demand. And that's really what's been persistent. This $45 mark was their previous historic all-time highs. And you can see that they have just jumped over this level. And sure enough, what do? They go straight to the linear regression channel. And now we're seeing a little bit of a deflection. As you can see, they're down 2% for the day, a little bit of profit taking. That surely could change this afternoon, depending on how the market reacts to Jerome Powell as well. But Palantir is one of those names that it's a fairly new company onto the markets. This has a lot of potential. This, for me, I think the upside momentum is just starting. I've been talking about it in my trading rooms, that Palantir has the potential of being $100 stock by the end of next year. They continue securing contracts. They're in unobstructed upside. The only thing that can offer up resistance is literally their all-time high price. So, they're at this moment where it's a retail darling. It's 70% owned by institutions, so they keep buying. They're not dumping. They're a product of AI, cloud, and again, anytime you have government contracts, having that guaranteed money is always a great thing. So is this a buy the dip opportunity? Because I'll be honest with you, we had a position, as everyone here knows, going into their earnings. And we did that. We did that because it was in my opinion, it was a really good opportunity on a buy the dip. I think it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago or so when we put that position on. Obviously, it paid off. So, if we do see Palantir pull back at all, what would be your focus for where you would look for a potential entry? Great. So two things. Number one, since we're kind of in uncharted waters, I always kind of geared towards psychological levels. So $50 even. This is really important. Floor traders tend to love even numbers. Retail traders love even numbers. And more of the fact that the psychological aspect, the difference between 50 and 49.99, even though the difference is a penny, it just has this kind of earmark where people just want it to stay above 50. So that's going to be a really important threshold down here. Now, if it happens to lose 50, the last line of defense, in my opinion, is that gap bar low. That gap bar low is going to be at 46.86. There certainly could be the same kind of aspect with Amazon of holding at 45s, the old highs acting as support. But generally speaking, when stocks tend to lose their gap bar low after they've had that gap up, the downside trajectory is to fill the gap and then rebound. So that $50, that $46 mark are going to be really two important price levels to watch in the near term on the pullback. Based on the depth of the move, it's a little bit too early to try and snap it in for a buy, even though they've had 3 days of higher highs and higher lows. I like the more sustained pullback with the upside being 10% plus. And obviously, if they break that 56.47, the linear regression channel is still trending up. There's going to be room for it to run. And again, when stocks trend like they have here, the anticipation is buy the dip to anticipate for new higher highs. So that's really important here.
So I'm going to just kind of answer a question or make a commentary here on Rodney saying Palantir next phase of AI build out in the leaps. So Rodney, I know you've mentioned leaps before. I don't specifically recall which stock you were talking about. Just be careful with leaps. Because of the volatility. I know you're buying a lot of time, you're paying a premium for it, but because the Vega component, the volatility sensitivity in leaps is so enormous, you've got to make sure that you're timing buying leaps when implied volatility is low. Because if you buy it when you see a big move and typically volatility is higher, boy, you can really, really get hurt if that volatility collapses. So just want to point that out to everybody. And you know what, guys? We're going to come right back to Charlie here, but everybody wants to know what it is today. And here we go, guys. Here we go. I didn't know how else to describe the market today. Awesome, Rodney. Great. I didn't know how else to describe the market today. So we are soaring. Yes, we are soaring. Obviously, that can all change in the next hour or so after Mr. Powell gets on the microphone. But that is our word of the day. Make sure we get on the wheel with the word soaring. Okay. I bet many of you thought that it was going to be something related to Charlie today, like moon or word of the day because Charlie was on. But soaring, and yes, as we posted in there, make sure you are here until the end. Okay, let's move on, and let's move on to the crypto space. So much anticipation was built up going into the election on if Trump won, this was going to be really extremely bullish for crypto. Obviously, the initial reaction, yes, it is. Those of you who were in a Mara position that we had, it's paid off really, really nicely. Where do we go from here, though? I mean, we just hit all-time highs. We broke through all-time highs on Bitcoin. There is a record amount of money still flowing in to crypto ETFs. Okay, where do we go from here? So I know the first stock, the first chart that Charlie wants to look at is MSTR. And it's funny because without me even knowing that, earlier this morning I brought up to both Charlie and Mike, take a look at MSTU. Charlie, maybe you could put that up there also when you're analyzing MSTR. MSTU, guys, is a 3X ETF based off of MSTR. So pretty interesting how you can trade this thing. But Charlie, take it away on MSTR.
So, obviously it's based the whole crypto initiative, and at least my thought process is purely based on Trump taking office here. Number one, this is going to sound crazy, but I actually believe that all this talk about Bitcoin getting to 250,000 is absolutely in the picture. And I'll explain why. If Trump does have or will be able to create the Bitcoin reserve, strategic reserve, the anticipation is that they're going to be looking to buy upwards of 200,000 Bitcoin. Now, I don't know if that's per shot or if that's progressive, but ultimately, we couple that with obviously BlackRock and a few other obviously institutions that are involved in crypto. And then we have the man, the one guy that is literally and forcibly trying to raise the price of Bitcoin, Michael Saylor.
So you know what? I just thought of this as you were saying this. MSTR. So the name of the company, does that have anything to do with his name, his initials, Michael Saylor something, TR?
Honestly, I don't know.
It just came to my mind, actually.
Because this stock originally wasn't, I forgot what they were originally when they listed, but they're pretty much just a wallet for Bitcoin. That's all they are. And their valuation's tied to Bitcoin. He is going to raise $42 billion. $21 billion is going to be based at the market offerings. So it's like huge sell orders coming in on the stock price. And they're going to take all of this money and do one thing and one thing only with it. That's buy Bitcoin.
He wants to be the reserve, not the government. He wants to be
I mean, he's okay with it. He says anything that's going to help the price go up. So now if you add in the idea of the United States government trying to have this constant buy order out there, along with Michael Saylor, along with retail, of course, buying, and along with the institutions buying on behalf of retail, we always talk about how certain stocks can just make these crazy movements like APP today. But remember, a lot of that is based on supply. And so if there's overwhelming demand and a constraint on supply, and that's really what Bitcoin is, there's a finite amount of Bitcoin. This is where we choke the supply chain and cause prices to rise up. So obviously, the first stop is 100,000. I think that's going to be happening by the end of the year.
You talk about a psychological number. I mean, boy, will that be a psychological number.
And if you think about it, Sid, once they get above that threshold, they're like, oh, 250, no problem. That's going to be really key, getting above that threshold.
I mean, if you think it's animal spirits now, just wait. Right?
I don't anticipate Bitcoin being 250,000 anytime soon, but I do believe that's the eventual upside target. And I hate to give that number because Sailor's talked about that number. Kathy Woods, who I absolutely just not a fan of, has talked about this number. But it's really true. It's very possible, and we're seeing how that demand is. So when we relate it to a stock like MSTR, we're just at the tipping point. Remember, this stock has had a 10x split, so this effectively is a $2,760 stock at its peak.
Nuts.
But that's just the start of it. This is a stock with that, even after their split, still has a really tight constraint on supply. Just has tremendous upside. It really makes a lot of sense that if Bitcoin continues to rise, MSTR is going to be knocking on the door of 300 within the next few weeks, perhaps even 350 by the end of the year. And if we relate that to a stock like Coin
before you go to that real quickly, so maybe people are looking at MSTR as a proxy for Bitcoin. Boy, I can buy, 100%. I can buy a share of MSTR at, $250, $270, whatever it is, or I could buy one Bitcoin at 77,000.
Right. No, it's 100%. You are 100% correct. And in fact, it's not typical. In fact, the stocks that tend to have these leverage type assets, like you just mentioned with MSTU and MSTR, are generally the stocks that are the most liquid or highest demand. Names like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia has it, Tesla has it. I believe Meta has it. But yet they have one created for MSTR, and I believe that's exactly why. Because it's something that people are buying relative to Bitcoin. And instead of having that actual direct exposure to BTC, they would rather have that exposure to the asset that is buying up BTC, which is MicroStrategy. So that makes
No, no question. What I have up on my screen right now, I'm going to come back to you for a second, but what I have up here is you were just talking about the liquidity, right? Look at the massive amount of volume being traded on the option side. This is just what I have up on the screen here. This is just next week's expiration. Okay, November 15th. And as I look closer here, anywhere from like the 260 all the way up through, 320, it is massive volume. And it's, in fact, today, the 300 line has almost 5,000 contracts traded on the 300 line today. So, yeah, you're right. There is a massive amount of liquidity there.
Yeah, YOLO said. I mean, and now if we turn our attention to coin on the weekly chart, coin has really struggled to gain any traction above 250 to around this like 290 price point. And that's going to be key here, because if it takes out 290, this is where I really love what's known as a profit pocket. Again, unobstructed upside, easier movement, a stock like coin, which can just have incredible momentum and really big gains in a short period of time. I mean, this week alone, the trading range is $83 so far. I mean, it's unbelievable. So they break that 290, they're breaking out to this 369-ish price. And then, of course, after 369, I'm going to pull this up on a 5-year chart as well. There's the only thing that's left is that 429.54, which they hit shortly after their IPO. And people are like, coin is never going to get back to this price ever again. Well, it looks like, especially over this year, next year, and obviously if the Trump administration actually pulls forward with supporting Bitcoin, it seems like almost a foregone conclusion that they're, at the very least, coin's going to be pushing towards 360 and really working towards that 429 price, or perhaps even higher. And so, we kind of track all these Bitcoin assets. One of the things that's really going to be really important for the miners, the crypto miners, to move and get back to their glory days of being, 20, 30, 40, and even higher dollar stocks, is that Bitcoin has to go up a specific amount. The halvening is actually really bad for the miners, because that forces them to work, twice as hard to make the same amount they had before, unless Bitcoin starts to gain and kind of double up in price. And if Bitcoin is on that trajectory, which it really is, for now that they've broken their all-time highs, and they get above 100,000, it's not just going to be coin. It's going to be names like Mara, Riot, CleanSpark, Ironhorse. Is it IREN? IREN is another one.
Yeah, IREN. Yep.
I love these names. Cypher is another one. Iris Energy, CIFR. CIFR is another one to watch. They were a $15 stock initially after their SPAC. Hut, Hive. I mean, we can name tons of these. They're all looking to make their way back towards those glorious days when they were pumping out of control. So
I was just looking while you were talking about that, when you were talking about liquidity. Just as a reference, Microsoft trades an average of about 260,000 option contracts a day. That's Microsoft. Okay. Yeah. Coinbase trades over 200,000 a day. So not as much. It is absolutely crazy, the liquidity that is out there for some of these stocks. I'm bringing up Mara right now because I know Howard Greenberg, and thank you, Howard, for being out here with us today. I see you on the chat.
Man, Howard.
He's the one that got us into Mara a few days ago. So thank you, Howard. He's just saying Riot just went online with the largest Bitcoin mining farm. So Riot is Riot blockchain for those that don't know. But I have Mara up on the screen right now, Marathon Parent, which, regardless if you know what they do or not, people look at it as a proxy for Bitcoin. Mara trades 250,000 contracts a day. So these stocks are just incredibly, incredibly liquid. And again, especially when you put it in relationship in terms to, the amount that Microsoft trades on a day, these guys are are hooping and hollering back here. It's someone's birthday back here as it's very busy. They're just hooping it up, the good old country club back here. So, yeah. So, guys, that's another benefit to looking at the option markets, whether it's in an ETF, whether it's in a stock. We know this, right? The liquidity that is there. And that's why we trade in these high liquid, high volume names, because the markets are tighter, easier to get in and out. We don't know, we could find them out. We don't know the exact beta, the exact correlation between a Mara to Bitcoin or a coin to Bitcoin. They've got to be probably pretty close. But if you ever wanted to really, set up a hedge, you can probably do so fairly easily. Where do you want to leave us today, kid? Because you are rocking and rolling.
Last one, Microsoft. This is a name I want to keep an eye on here. Severely could be affected severely today, obviously, with the FOMC. What's really important in this scenario was that Microsoft, it's unbelievable that this company, this quality of company, was trading under the 200-day moving average just for the last few days. Well, today they leapt above that level. They immediately used that key technical indicator as the floor, spiked up to the 100 SMA. And if they break that 100 SMA, there's a lot of room for them to run to 438. So, this was a really key kind of technical range that I've been watching, this 420.
You had to bring it up, didn't you?
Yeah, but, I think that they could be making this jump towards 441 here in the near term if we could get Powell to make this push. And again, it's like, how much more can buyers continue to stack on at these levels, trading that we're at or near all-time highs in the NASDAQ, S&P 500, the Dow Jones? Well, quite honestly, with the FOMC, anything goes, and all it takes is for him to say something that the market likes, and we're up another 1-2%. And, again, it's just everybody's anticipating this big pop after elections. And it just seems like they're just looking for any excuse to pile it in. Now, certainly, Jerome Powell could scare the living hell out of the markets, maybe fighting for his job, because, it's not like Trump hasn't tried to fire him before. It wasn't like Trump didn't mention during his campaign that he would consider firing Powell. But nevertheless, we'll see how the meeting goes, and we'll see what happens. But Microsoft's on my radar.
So, but before I talk about that, because me too move, I shouldn't say that, but you can see on the screen here, guys, last chance. Soaring is the word of the day for our wheel spin. Make sure you get that up here. This is the last call. You're going to have about 30 seconds to get that up there. What I was going to say is, if we get a pullback on Powell, Microsoft is on my radar to get in. I'd love to, I was looking at it probably $2 earlier today than where it's trading right now. So I would love that pullback for an opportunity to get in. And it's really funny. I don't know if any of you have heard this, or if Charlie, you heard this. I was hosting a group of high school students earlier today from Stevenson High School in Lincolnshire, Illinois. Yes, they have football playoffs tomorrow night. Go Stevenson, go Pats. But a couple of the kids were telling me, because we were talking about the Fed meeting today in Powell, they were telling me there's something viral on TikTok, which I don't look at, that depending on how Powell addresses the audience, whether it's hello everybody or whatever it might be, you could probably look this up on TikTok, was an indicator at his tone and what he was going to say.
I've seen that.
Okay, you have, because back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s, when Alan Greenspan was Fed chairman, every Fed meeting we would closely watch. There was the Greenspan briefcase indicator that was all over CNBC at the time. So this is pretty similar to that. And I hadn't seen that before. So whoever, I know a lot of these Stevenson kids are watching right now. So whoever brought that up to me, shout out to you. So,
awesome.
There we go. The briefcase indicator, Rodney. That is it. All right, Michael, are we ready on the spin? Unbelievable. Charlie, you are the man. Let's get a spin going. Howard Greenberg, I hope you're on the wheel today. I don't know if you are or not, but I'm hoping that you are on the wheel. Let's do it. Let me get our wheel up here, guys. Here we go. Here we go. I seem to be saying this every day, but it sure seems to me like it's getting harder and harder and harder to read this wheel, meaning that there are more and more people on every day, which is a great thing. And before I spin this, make sure you pound that like button, follow us. You know what, Charlie, give us a drum roll in the background, will you? Wow, that was good. Here we go. Here we go. One winner today, folks. I'm getting dizzy just watching that spin. And who is it? It is, oh, man, Leif, you won yesterday. That's unbelievable.
Let's go.
Leif, that's 2 days in a row. Are you still here?
If not, I'll talk to him in the AI room.
He's in the AI room?
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, there we go. So you know what I'm going to do also? Because it was one tick away, and this is like spinning that wheel at the end of Price is Right, you know, when they go for the 10 grand, because it was one tick away, I'm going to also give it to Victor Dombrowski today, who was literally an eyelash away from winning also. So Victor, you are the benefit of Leif's good fortune today. Victor, are you here? You got to be here, man, to collect. You got 10 seconds to collect. Victor is here. That is awesome.
Yeah, Victor.
All right. We got the double duo today. All right, guys, you know what you got to do? You got to send me an email. Leif, I still have yours from yesterday, so I guess you are exempt from doing that. Send me an email, prosperswag@prospertrading.com. and send me your address and size swag, and we'll get it right out to you. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Charlie Moon, you are the GOAT. It's always great when you are on here. And everybody, we'll see you again tomorrow. Fed announcement in 28 minutes. Jerome Powell starts, I think, at 1:30 Central. He's either 1:15 or 1:30 Central time. So that's when the fireworks will start, not at the announcement. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you.